Okay, now I behave.
No, you don't have to behave. We got hundreds of your misbehaving, but that's why we know, you're from Switzerland, okay? You misbehave on recorded calls. It's just what you do. You add a little bit of the salt to the group, but that's the flavoring we're looking for. So, you're an Ubermensch, and that's a compliment because I think you are a Superman, my friend.
Wow.
And we'll try to keep up as best we can.
Yeah, I'm going to switch out next time I get a new pair of glasses. I'm going to get cool ones like he has there. So that way I can be cooler.
Well,
good morning, good afternoon, and or good evening, depending on the time zone of where you're at. I'm signing in here from Oregon, which is
you can choose.
coast. There you go. That's the ones I need right there. Yeah, one of those. You need to send me those. Yeah. So I'm trying. Look at Peter. He's got like every pair of glasses he's had since he started wearing glasses. I like that.
They look like old men's glasses.
It's a kind of dementia, I have to make sure that I find it everywhere.
Right. Well, so that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about dementia and how to help us, deal with the difficulties of life. So that everybody
it's tough. Wow.
What are these guys doing? They are well. Anyway, so I'll tell you a quick. I always got a story, and so I'll give you a quick story here, and I'll give you a story about inauthenticity. Right. So that's the opposite of being authentic, correct? And I'll tell you what happened to me since you're bringing up our glasses. When I was first hired I was hired for my second Fortune 500 company. I went to work for a company called Unum. I didn't know that they were I didn't know what Fortune 500 meant back then because I think I wasn't even 21 yet. So I went to work. It was actually my mentor that was my trainer in the Dale Carnegie sales training program that I had spent an inordinate amount of money for my budget at the time to get trained from one of the first books that impacted my life called what? What is the Dale Carnegie book called? Anybody know it?
How to influence and influence people.
How to influence people, right. And so when I had my lawn company, just to tell you the little background, I was cutting lawns all over my city and had become very successful while I was in high school. I had all the basketball team, worked for my company, and my first employee was my father. That's how cool he was. So we kind of switched hats in the middle of that. That's a different story. But everyone saw me all around town. It was a small town. It was 75 or 80,000 people. But in that town, I was everywhere around the loop, and I was cutting all of the commercial lawns at McDonald's and the Hot Biscuits and the Long John Silver's and the Longview Mall and all that kind of stuff. So I walked into the place where I buy all my equipment from one day, and somehow the guy that I bought all my equipment from, we become good friends. And he said, "Hey, this really great guy came in here and wanted to know if I knew you because I was using all of his Toro equipment, commercial equipment." And he said, "This guy is really successful, and he has an office out on the edge of town. And he said he would love to meet you. Here's his business card." And I was 17. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. So anyway, he said, no, I trust the guy. Go check him out, give him a call, and set an appointment and go see him. So I did, and I sat down in front of the guy, and he had a very nice office, very kind of attorney-ish, I guess I would say, And so anyway, he asked me questions about why I was building my company, and ended up having the discussions about what my and how I did my business and how I was focused on delivering more value and so on and so forth. And we had this conversation. He ended up spending a couple hours with me. I thought it was only going to be 30 minutes. And he pulled out of the center of his drawer a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And he said, "My young friend, you have got so many things headed in the right direction. If you will take this book and you will read it and you will apply it, then you will make a difference in this world."
Oh, wow. That's really cool, isn't it?
He just spoke to me. I needed to give
so, give me a second. Someone's got a little background noise here. Let's see if I can talk. Okay. So what happened there was a chain reaction. Okay. I took that book. I started reading it. I remember going home to my parents and walking in and saying, I went and met this really successful man. He does real estate investments and so forth. And way over my head at the time, I was, still being a high school student, And I showed him this book, and I said, he gave me this book, and he said, if I read this book and apply it, then I'm going to be able to make a difference in this world. So that was my first personal improvement, personal development book that I was given by someone else that had seen me out working hard, and for some reason decided to give me some inspiration and take some time out of his busy schedule. And so I kept reading it, and I read it. So I ended up in Dallas, and that's about 2.5 hours west of where I grew up. And I'm working for Alcoa at the time. And I remember had got to the top of the sales ranks, and I was wanting to figure out how do I become better and better. I was reading my book. In fact, when they asked me, when I went in there on the job interview, they said, what book are you reading right now? And tell us what you learned from it. And I said, I'm reading Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And she immediately stopped the interview, picked me up out of her office and walked me to the vice president's office, set me down in there. He interviewed me and said, when can you start? Because explanation of where your mindset is. And I think that's one of the things I still did today when I used to be in corporate, is I was always focusing on what book are you reading right now, and what has been the book that has made the greatest impact in your life. Give me a summary. And that gives you a snapshot of who the person is, because if you get the, I'm not reading anything right now, well, that's probably not the right candidate that you're looking for, right? So how you're feeding your mind and how you're helping your mind to move to the next level is a depiction. It is a reflection of who you are and who you are aspiring to be. Because every time we are studying that, when we're studying great people in our world, men, women, generals of armies, presidents of countries, emperors, philosophers, psychologists, moms, dads, warriors, all of these individuals, those are different archetypes of who the person is. And when you look at the written word that they have built in the legacy and sent forward in time, for you to have an opportunity to glean from all of their experiences, their tragedies, their failures, their setbacks, their betrayals, and how they were able to rise over each one of those, then what they're doing is the same thing that each of us have decided to do, is to create a time capsule and send forward in time what we are doing, how we're doing it, how we are dealing with our modern issues that may have been different than, let's say, one of the Stoic philosophers 2,500 years ago. And a lot of times we think that we are so absolutely different than our ancestors. But times what I found is when I studied philosophy, which is the love of wisdom, if you understand Philo and Sophie, it's the love of wisdom. That's what Philo and Sophie together mean in, I believe it's Latin, if not Latin, maybe Greek. But the love of wisdom, and it is, I had a great conversation just a little bit ago this morning with a young man that we are extending an offer to that's in San Diego. And I don't know if he has had a chance to sign on yet. He hasn't got here yet, but we were having this interesting discussion about what it is that we can do to make a difference, and how becoming that authority figure is allowing you to make that difference in the world. Because when you insights and your perspective, you share it in a particular and unique way. So yeah, I might have read Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and something in those things resonated to me, but what someone else may need, they may not know who Marcus Aurelius is and care that he was the greatest of Rome's emperors. So when you have something like that, when I take that content, and we've talked about this in time before, and we've also talked about this on the branding calls on Thursday, is your message is unique in the fact that you have taken something possibly from other people. You've taken their quote, their inspiration, their insights, and then you have interpreted that through what? Through your life experience. And when you interpret it through your life experience, when you say it with your words, it has a different resonance. It has a different frequency. And that's why we can't say that just because great minds have already made all of these statements. Hang on, I got to get some other folks in here. Okay. Statements that have already been made in through our world and have already been, they have already been put out there in manuals and documents or whatever. But here's the thing, when you make that statement, when it comes from you, it has a particular resonance and frequency for who? For your audience within this world. And that's why each of you take your particular story and you story. It is not to sit here, you know, someone asked me one time, why don't you guys just go out here and do ghostwriters and be a ghostwriter and then bring everybody on board and have a phone call with them and then just take that phone call and then write your own version of what they said to you and explain to me why that would not work. Someone.
It's not coming from the heart.
Not coming from the heart. It's not authentic, right? And so the most valuable thing here is anyone can go and write stories and they can put somebody's name on it. And they could even take your story as if they're reporting your story and write it as an interviewer reported it. But is that story truly your voice?
No.
No, it's not. So we talk about authenticity. We talk about taking other people's. It's not about, quote, what's the right word? Plagiarism, okay? Where we take somebody else's work and then we take it and make it ours, okay? No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about interpretation. We're talking about interpretation of someone else's content that has impacted us, like the story from Dale Carnegie, from all the stories in Dale Carnegie, okay? How many of you have read Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So if you haven't read it, you got to put it on.
Yes.
It's like, Steve, I see you as well. It's like reading Think and Grow Rich. Okay, Think and Grow Rich, of course, goes back farther in time. I think that was written back in the 1920s or 1930s the first time. Yeah. But How to Win Friends and Influence People, incredible stories, incredible insights. And the format that you see him writing is the format that we are recommending that you write. Not sterile, not formulaic, not boring, not content that people can't remember, but they'll give you a title. Like I can remember the one that was most powerful to me in How to Win Friends and Influence People is to the situation from the other person's perspective, right? We always go through life believing that our perspective is the truthful perspective because why? Well, it's coming from inside of our head. And therefore, our perspective has to be what?
The right.
Right.
Yeah, that's the default, right? That's how we normally, if we're thinking, remember last week we talked about being unconsciously incompetent. And when we become conscious of our incompetence, the first thing that we get, the aha that I got is, oh my gosh, look at the problems this guy has going on, okay? Not the problems that everybody else has going on. That's when we're at that unconscious incompetence. We blame and complain because we have this feeling of being entitled. And we are acting in an infantile type fashion, thinking that we're entitled for other people to treat us in certain ways, in certain fashions, and to meet our expectations. And when then our expectations are unrealized, what happens? Tears.
Disappointed.
Well, it gets disappointed. Yeah. When you hear the tears start, okay, maybe not the physical tears, but it's the tears inside of if that person didn't treat me right, they didn't speak to me correctly, I wasn't respected. They didn't return my phone call. I did not get a response from them, blah, 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 right? Yes? Has that ever happened to you or no? Am I the only person who was called that has acted?
You're the only one, Steve.
And how does that make you feel?
Okay, so now that I'm taking all of the Swiss people off of my Christmas list, I'm adding the Canadians. They're all now as well.
Oh, dear.
You could do it, eh?
Yeah, exactly, right. So here's where we were going with this. We started off looking at Peter and his 20 versions of his glasses that he has buried or hidden all over the house, so that he's probably on an Easter egg hunt every day and finds extreme joy when he uncovers one of the ones that he forgot he lost yesterday. I love that. That's an amazing thing. I'm going to try that as well. I was telling you about my story where I was inauthentic. So I went to work for this first company, ended up getting to work for a second one. And the second one was a company called Unum. And so the mentor that I had inside the Dale Carnegie sales training program was Kathy Orr. And Kathy Orr was an extreme professional. I'll say that. She's one of my first mentors along the way. And I did really well in the Dale Carnegie program because I applied and really wanted to get to the next level. So all of a sudden, Kathy came up to me one day and said, hey, for you to come and interview for our company, we're looking for a new consultant. And so I did. I went through all their process, and lo and behold, all of that training from the Dale Carnegie Sales Training Program and the book, and the other one that I had studied at that time was this book. So you see it there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Has anybody read that one from Sun Tzu?
No.
No. Okay. Sandy, you've read it? Anybody else? Okay. So if you haven't read The Art of War, okay, it's a little bit cryptic. It's a very ancient book that was written by a Chinese philosopher named Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu wrote his philosophy down, then he was brought to the palace. I forgot the province at the time. I think it was the king of Wu. And the king asked him to immediately demonstrate his philosophy or be killed. And they were very abrupt back then in China. That was the way things were, either live by your philosophy or die because it doesn't work. And so if you read the book, it's a great explanation of how he immediately applied it and so impressed the emperor that the emperor did what? He put him in charge of his entire armies for the entire country. How would you like that? That as a philosopher, the top guy in the world reads your manuscript, brings you to the palace, tells you to demonstrate it, you prove it, and your proof instantly puts you in charge, makes you the top man underneath his regime, in charge of his entire military force. And you go, wait a second, didn't you say this guy was a philosopher? Wasn't he an academic? Yes. So why was he immediately put in charge of the entire armies of this king? Anybody have any ideas? What do you think?
I think it all starts with your mindset.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
His wisdom was impressive.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
He showed competence.
He showed competence, yeah. And like you said, Lillian, what he did in his demonstration proved that it was more than just a great idea. It proved practical application of his idea, of his philosophy. So it showed that him thinking about his thinking actually produced a real life application that was so noteworthy that he was instantly put in charge of the responsibility of protecting an entire nation, instantly put under his control. Wow. So can we, by coming to these training calls, by pushing ourselves to become better, by constantly doing our mental gymnastics to think about how to think better, the syntax of how to be more ethical, how to deal with toxic relationships and moving those out of our life so we can focus on situations that we can actually make a difference in them, right? And how to alleviate those things that are holding us back so that we can make a catapulting leapfrog forward, right? Why? So that we can make the difference, so that we can protect our world. Is that not the philosophy that we are all after here, is to make our world better? And if we are making our world better, then are we not protecting it from those forces that wish to make it worse? Yes. And you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't sign up. Are we enlisting right now? When do we go to?
Contribution is one of the 6 basic human needs, according to Tony Robbins.
Absolutely. Contribution to make a difference, and to make a difference more than, hey, I just want to have more lemonade on my porch sitting time, right? How many of you saw the great time that I was able to have this weekend? Anybody see that on Facebook?
Yeah.
I have never gone 80 miles an hour across sand in a sand buggy before. Talk about incredible. Turbocharged, all hopped up engines, sand tracks on it, all this kind of stuff. Never been in one before, and got a chance to spend some time with a brother of mine that I've known for a long time. I call him a brother because that's how close we are. And so by moving up here to Oregon, he said, hey, do you want to go to the dunes? And I'm like, Like go to the ocean and the sand. He goes, yeah, the ocean's close by, but there's these dunes and we ride dune buggies over them. I'm like, okay, yeah, I've seen the Baja races and stuff like that, but in my mind, I didn't have a picture. I didn't have an idea. So when we got there and I'm looking at these, the first place we were at was Bay, and Coos Bay had sand dunes that were 150 feet tall that you ride up almost, not vertical, but it's almost vertical. And these, because of the sand tracks, you can actually drift on the side of the walls. I kept feeling that we were all strapped in there. I kept feeling that we're instantly going to fall off the side of this sand because it's got so vertical. And he's actually drifting sideways around. The engine's up here behind you, just rearing high up, and we're jumping over these dunes. And I thought after that day, and then we did a night run where we just had our lights on and we had these, what were they, kind of, what are those? The illumination that you see at night, neon. We had neon antennas that are on the back of each one of them. And so you can look across the dark dunes and you see the floodlights on the front and these neon antennas bouncing like this all over the dunes out there at night. Totally otherworldly. So I thought we had hit the top of the world precipice, right? And the next day we go out to Winchester Bay and we go to Banshee Hill. And how tall do you think Banshee Hill was?
400 feet?
450 feet. 450 feet straight up. And man, okay, awesome experiences, okay? That to me is what you experience. That's what you do, all those things in your life. You discipline yourself, you work hard, and then the accomplishments that work for me, that give me that level of feeling of significance that I've contributed, is I get a chance to step away from the work and get to go spend 2 days out climbing these incredible walls, right? Chance to go do these things and spend time with those people that matter in our life, that we really want to have those unique experiences. So if you haven't had a chance to check out my adventure, jump on Facebook, scroll right down. It's a couple from the top there, and you get a chance to see how I love to get away and then experience those things that come from being authentic. So that's what I want to go back to here before we get into our Q&A this week, is talking about authenticity. We were talking about Peter, we were talking about the glasses, my glasses. Where was I inauthentic? Okay, so I went through the first company, got hired for the second company, and this company, we were basically consultants that went out into law firms and made their benefit design adjustments for their senior executives. So here I am, 20, not even 21 yet, and I'm going to these boardrooms of downtown law firms and sitting around with the executive partners. And at that point, I was in my training, so I just realized how I felt that I was so outside my pay grade, that this world was at a different level, and I couldn't believe that I was there. But I also realized my responsibility, that I had to get really good, really fast, because I was going to be helping these very powerful and very successful individuals make decisions about their risk management. So what do you think happened to Steve, the Shrek, the right linebacker that, you know, came up through the ranks and worked hard and mowed lawns, and all of a sudden now I'm sitting working for a Fortune 500 company and an executive benefit committee on the 45th floor of a downtown skyscraper in Dallas? How do you think Steve felt? Scared. Scared out of my. Okay. And I was so scared, I realized I was so far outside of my pay grade. And then what happens to one individual? He looks across the table, not with this gray hair, but back then my hair was blonde, right? And he says, "Hey, son, where did you go to school?" And guess where Steve had not gone to school at?
Harvard.
Not just Harvard. I actually turned down my Scholastic scholarship. So I had, at that time, no college in my belt, just hard work and hustle. And I felt instantly petrified. All of these guys had not been to school, but they had been to law school. They all had doctorate degrees. They were way outside my level of, quote, personal perceived intelligence. What did Steve do in order, when he left this place, when he was petrified, and there were a number of other experiences where I got that common level of judgment people looked at me, they looked at my face. I looked like I was 16 or 17 and I was barely 21. And they give me that, hey son, where did you go to school at? Or hey son, does your mom know that you're out here today? You know, those kinds of comments, right? Have you ever felt that before where people looked at you and made a comment and they said, hey, you don't have any authority. You don't belong here. You don't
Yes,
to be an expert.
Absolutely.
Right.
absolutely.
Okay. So how did I compensate?
You lied.
Yes, I did.
You faked it until you made it.
I used that to justify it at that point. And so what I did, the reason why we're starting this discussion with this pair of glasses, actually, I think I still have my original pair of glasses. I went to Lester Optical in the local mall, and I walked in there and I picked out a pair of glasses that were Polo, that had the emblem right here, right? It said Polo, and they were tortoise shell, kind of similar to Peter's, right? A little bit of gold in the frame, but they were tortoise shell. And so I went up there and picked them out. They were the most expensive I could buy. And the lady looked at me and she said, do you have your prescription? And I said, no, I don't have a prescription. And she was like, I don't understand. Why are you buying these glasses? What do you think it was?
I want to look old.
I needed to look older because I was picking up the vibe from all the people that I was sitting around. Not only were they, quote, more educated, more important, more powerful, made more money than me. And all of a sudden, here's little old Steve in from the country. And my days of building my little company to cut lawns and make, make a hardworking person out of me, all of a sudden didn't matter in their work. All of my, hey, I've already done this, that didn't belong here. And now I'm in a company that is now believing that I'm good enough to advise these individuals on very technical issues. And I feel scared to death. Absolutely scared to death.
Did you grow out a beard?
Couldn't grow a beard at the time. If I had, it would have been so light, it wouldn't have shown up. I was literally, I had a baby face at the time. So, they were just, it was the worst thing. I remember going out of there. And so I ended up challenged with my manager. And along the way, I was still going to show how robust I was. And I ended up telling him that I was going to go out and become, or let's put it this way, because we were a brokerage operation. So we had to go out and get individuals that specialized, that work with major law firms and hospitals and doctor groups. And I announced to the office on a Monday morning one day that year, I think that would have been 1990, that I was going to go get the business of the 5 top producers in Dallas. And all of my cohorts, all of my other consultants at the Monday morning sales table, including my manager, do you think they were like, hey, that's great, you're doing a great job, we're proud of you? What do you think their response was?
You'll never make it.
Out of your mind.
They laughed.
Easy there, Doogie Howser.
Yeah, exactly. They laughed me out of the Monday morning. I walked underneath the door. I didn't even need to open it because I felt little. Okay. And so what did I do? I went down to a guy that was named John Furman Miller. Yes, he had 3 names. You couldn't call him John Miller. You had to refer to him as John Furman Miller. And he had the little half glasses, if you've ever seen those, that sit at the bottom of your nose. And so when they look at you, what do? They look down their nose at you, right? You ever seen those guys?
Yeah.
So I went to John Miller's office, and because I worked for a big reputable company, I got an appointment with him. He didn't know who Steve was. I walked in there and sit down on his luxurious office and found out that not only was he an attorney, but he was also head of a former mergers and acquisition company on Wall Street and had relocated here to Dallas because he was somebody of importance, right? And the whole time while he's explaining to me who he is, he's looking at me down the bottom of his glasses like this, correct? And so when he asked me a very technical question,
My glasses.
and I responded in what I had been trained to answer, and his retort to that was, you don't know what you're talking about. That's incorrect. What do you think happened to Steve again? Even though I had my inauthentic glasses on, they weren't working with this guy. Why? Because he was for real. He was the guy that had been in the law firms. He was the guy that had the big clients already. And he was telling me that I was full of what? Bunk. Yeah. And so his phone luckily rang. And I literally just told him, I got to go. And I ran out of his office. I exited the meeting. It wasn't supposed to be over. But I again realized that I was so far out of my environment. I went back to the office. I called all the people at home office in Portland, Maine, and I started studying everything on taxation of buy-sell agreements and key man structures. And it was at first over my head. It was outside of my pay grade. It wasn't in the normal training process of my company. And I did something that I want to recommend to each of you do. Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. Immersive learning. Immersive learning. Anybody know what that means?
No.
Immerse
Learn
yourself with continuous learning in a very short period of time.
Exactly. Steve,
Then-
is that on point with your definition, Steve?
Sorry?
Yep.
I was asking Steve there because Steve put his hand up as well. Steve, is that in line with your definition as well? I don't know if Steve's hearing me. Can you hear me, Steve?
I'm driving. I have a hard time hearing you.
I got you. Understand, buddy. Okay, I just wanted to see if your answer was in line with Nisa's. Okay, so yes, that's a good answer. The value of immersive learning is focusing on a single topic and then doing it, immersing yourself, or basically burying yourself in the content for a particular period of time with a laser focus. And I'll give you the example, since Tony Robbins is someone we've already brought up. Tony Robbins along the way decided he wanted to play polo. Okay, has anybody ever seen Tony Robbins?
Yeah.
Has anybody seen how big Tony Robbins is?
Yeah.
If I remember right, Tony is probably 6'7". I've shaken his hand before. I'm 6'3", 225, and his hand wrapped around mine like he was a giant. Okay, big guy. Okay, now big guy on a polo horse. Does that go together?
No,
No, it doesn't do good.
that poor horse.
It doesn't sound like a good ending. Okay. So what did Tony do? He impressed me when I was reading which one of his book, the Giant Within. And this is where I first learned his concept of immersive learning. He took off, I want to say, several weeks, shut down his training, shut down all of his program. They didn't do podcasts, they didn't do Zoom calls back then. He just lived on the road. He decided that he loved the game and he wanted to play in the game, had no background, had no equestrian riding skills, I don't think he'd ever even been on a horse growing up in Southern Cali. So he goes out and actually blocks off, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks, if I remember the story correctly. And what did Tony do all day, every day for those 3 or 4 weeks?
Played polo.
Immerse himself in training.
Yes, he did. He immersed himself. And do you think he just decided to go out there and jump on the back of a horse and start running around with that mallet and swacking at stuff?
No.
No, what did he do? Who did he get?
He sought out the experts.
He went and hired the experts. He went to the best coaches. The best coaches sometimes were once upon a time the best, and then moved from playing to coach players, okay, those kind of status. So he immersed himself with the best trainers. He already had mindset. He already knew how to impress upon himself how to continue going what was going to happen when he got on that horse. And that horse felt, Tony's got to at least be 5, for being 6'7". I'm just guessing that. The guy's in incredible shape. So he's got a lot of muscle mass. So I would say he's got to be 275. He may even be closer to 300 because the guy is just a giant, very in shape, but a big guy. And I'll bet you that horse didn't like him getting on the back of him, right? And so the horse didn't want to canter or trot or get up into a full gallop, especially a full gallop that you're going to be swinging that mallet to come around and hit that. Now, the immersive result is what? Within that 3 or 4 week period of time, Tony was able to go from no background, no experience, never been on a horse, didn't know how to swing a mallet, didn't know how to swing a mallet and hit a ball, didn't know how to swing a mallet and hit the chuck, I think is the correct term, and make it go in the goal.
Yeah.
End of that immersive learning time, guess what he was doing? He was playing competition. That was his outcome. That was his objective. That was his goal. So he excluded everything else from distractions and buried himself. He immersed himself in that, okay? So I learned that content, that concept. So I went back and immersed myself in everything about taxation, agreements, and structures, and company valuations, and all of this stuff. And I went back to that same guy that made me feel this tall. So underneath his door as I was leaving, I didn't even need to open it. And I went back to him with an explanation of everything that I learned. And I honestly explained to him, you know, when you asked me that question, I gave you my company's answer. And I found out that that answer was superficial. It wasn't the correct information. It was generally correct, but when you asked me a question with a different type of corporate structure, it wasn't correct, and you called me on it. But I'm here to tell you that even if you do business with or not, I took that particular situation and I went and immersed, and here's my explanation, and here's the correct answer, and I can help you with your law firms if you're willing to give me the chance. John Furman Miller, all three words, decided to take me in to Carrington, Coleman, Sloman, and Blumenthal, one of the most elite, expensive law firms in the Crescent Court, downtown Dallas. He took me in there to sit with the executive committee with the partners to structure their buy-sell. I'll take you in here, but he called my manager and said, this is my biggest client. I am not going to let Steve in here by himself, so he can sit second chair, but I want you here. You're the manager. You're the one with the expertise. You be here. So we showed up there. I did all the proposal designs, had everything prepared to go for my manager. My manager was going to meet me there. I showed up ahead of time, not on time, because on time is late. Ahead of time is on time.
That's true.
I met John. I walked into this lush, opulent law firm. Never seen anything like it in my life. And we're standing in this benefit room, and we get a call in there on the side phone, and it happens to be my manager, and he's asking for John, and he says he can't make it. He's stuck in a traffic jam. So John's face turns white. The blood runs out of it. And he hands the phone to me, and Bud gets on the phone, and he says, look, if you can't handle this meeting, you need to tell me right now, because not only will we lose this client, but we will lose all the business from John Furman Miller. And then what is he going to do after that? He's going to tell all of his other elite individuals that we do not know what we're doing in this business and do not work with our firm. So I'm not meaning to put all this pressure on you, Steve. I'm putting all this pressure on you. If you don't know what you're doing, you tell me right now and we'll cancel it and we'll do it a different day. What do you think happened?
You said,
You
yes, I
did
can
it.
handle it.
No, I was scared to death. I couldn't answer him. And he put so much pressure on me. I mean, it's like we're going to go out of business in Dallas if I mess up on this meeting, even this much. And so there was that feeling inside that gave me the option to just go, you know what? I'm out. I quit. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go with safe. But because I had done my immersive learning, because I had dug in hard and spent the time and the effort really breaking this thing apart to the bones, I told him, let's go for it. And I remember putting down the phone and I looked at John Furman Miller. He's still sitting there with no blood in his face. He can't hardly talk. He's stuttering. He's like, let's cancel. Let's not do this. You know, he's trying to give me all the signals. And I said, nope, let's move forward. And that's the point where you make that difference, where you move with confidence, not arrogance. See, before I was acting with arrogance. I had the company information. I had done my superficial training. I had gotten my little checkbox. And I was there to show off our big company. We're Fortune 500, we're publicly traded, blah, 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 blah. Same stuff that everyone else says. This was the time when it mattered. And the reason why you will move forward and you will make that impact when someone opens a platform to you, like it's happened to me in the past. Hey, our speaker can't be here. Can you take the place? And right then and right there, you're going to understand what fear feels like. We have an audience sitting out there. Our main speaker can't make it. Can you step behind the podium? Can you put the mic on and step up in front of this group? No notes, no time to prepare. And can you make an impact? You're going to have that. It's going to happen in your future. And all the preparation that you have made right now, every one of the training calls, every book that you have read, every time that you have journaled and taken notes and thought deeply and been authentic with yourself is going to count. Why? Because it's not just going to be the company that depends on you. It's not just going to be these other individuals that are depending on you to not blow up the scenario, whatever that scenario is. Their reputation depends upon you making it happen. And then ultimately it's going to be your reputation, thirdly. And what you have to focus on, what you have to be crystal about is moving from a script, moving from saying what other people say is not going to cut it. You can take what other people might have said, but it has to come through your interpretation. It has to be your story. And that's where you have to begin from an authentic position, from a position that you have earned this authority. You have become an expert in your area. And without having to go and give all those other accolades of why you deserve to be here, you focus differently, not like all the other speakers, not like most people tell you to do, but you follow Matt's system. And you begin with what?
The book. Your book.
Your symbol. Your symbol of what?
Authority.
Authority.
Right. And you use what we talk about here in the branding calls is your 90-second pitch is, before I begin today, before I begin to tell you all the things that you think I should tell you, before I begin to bore you to tears, okay? Let's first off and tell you that I'm scared to death right now. I'm scared for an important reason. I'm scared because I care. I'm scared that if I do not give you what you are looking for, if I do not communicate with you what I have learned and how I have moved myself through life's difficulties, if I do not give you that in a crystal clear explanation, and I fail to give you that motivation that your life is looking for, if I fail to give you that for you to become your best version of you, I'm scared because if I fail, I may not be able to give you what you're looking for today. So what I'm going to start off with is just to admit to you that I'm scared because I care. I want to make and give you the best that I know. That's why I like to start off with summarizing why I wrote my book. Is that good with you? Let's start there. You follow that?
Yes.
Does everyone get that? How you can begin with this courageous vulnerability. Don't fake it. Be authentic, okay? Don't wear the fake glasses like Steve wore because I was scared, okay? And so I became inauthentic, trying to mask my fear. Be yourself and come right out at the very beginning. Bam, here's where it's at. And here's why I'm moving through my fear, because I have a particular story and I hope you find value in it. Here's how it works. Here's what happened. Here's how I failed. And here's what got me up. And then I failed again. But guess what? I didn't fail because failure is not failure. What? As long as you learn something from it. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you how I have fallen down repeatedly in my life. I don't know, maybe you have as well. But when we fall down, notice that I'm now being inclusive. When we fall down, that's what we all do as humans. When we have setbacks, when we have things that happen to us we didn't expect, when we have those people that we trust betray us. Has anybody ever felt that? Has that ever happened to you? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And you feel that. And you can ask them that. You know what you're going to see from individuals in the audience? That they're going to be unconsciously agreeing with you. Yes, that has happened with me. You know, sometimes you feel people that you care about most, when they disappoint us because they do not meet our expectations of loyalty and allegiance, and we want to quit, and we say, never again. I'm not going to trust anybody anymore. I'm going to crawl in my shell, and I'm going to pull a rock in over my head, and I'm just going to be safe. I'm going to get in my own little island, disconnect from the world, and do what? Sulk. Poor me. Life is rough. And if you've never done that, again, this may be Steve talking to himself. I've done that before. I've thought about it before. I've thought about it a lot. Every time you get tested, you find out what the measure of the person you are inside. That's what testing is for. It's easy to do what you say you're doing when there's no duress, when there's nothing online, there's no pressure. Yeah, I do my morning preparation. Yeah, I do my workout. Yeah, I do my personal development. Cool. Awesome habit to get into. Now tell me how you performed when all of your life went to hell, when all of your routine got demolished, when everything that you called your constants fell into variables. How did you perform then? Did you come back to your baseline? Did you do what you said was important for you to do? Did you do the habits that you professed to other people that needed to be maintained? I fail a lot. And the reason why I build my routines and my regiments is for me to come back to it. And for me to have an accountability, a self-accountability, because I know what my baseline is. I know what Steve is supposed to be doing, because I know what my ultimate outcome is. Those 2 gravestones. The 2 gravestones is the outcome of my life performance. My children are going to write words on them. One gravestone says, here lies an average man, like everyone else. The other gravestone has one word. It says worthy. Every decision that I make, every time that I am down, every time that my knees are bloodied, or I do an ultimate face plant, I get to make a decision once again. I can stay down, I can throw in the towel, and my children will write my gravestone. Average man, like everyone else. Doesn't matter. Didn't make a difference. So what? Or I can find something inside of me that, as tired as I am, as busted as I feel, as betrayed, as much anguish and pain and agony that life brings us. Those are the resistance. Those are the elements of our daily gym. That is the training grounds, if you will, that God, the Creator, allows us to go to. It's called reality. It's called life. And the only way that the Creator can find out which few of us are going to make a difference is bringing some hell on earth. Right? You ever been there? You ever? Yeah. You ever wished it would just go away and you could just go back to simple and normal and easy? You know, give me some ice cream, please. You know, maybe with a lot of bourbon on it. Thank you very much. Right? Can I just numb myself because the pain is too harsh? Right? And we wish that. And that's where most people end. And they stay there eating their ice cream with a little extra bourbon. And they console themselves and they talk to their other friends, and their friends tell them, hey, it's okay. Yeah, I'm like you too. We're buddies. We hang out on the couch together. We watch Netflix until every movie has all been watched. Why? Because we're afraid to go out there into this dangerous world. We're afraid to put ourselves into stressful situations. We're afraid to get into that conference room where everything counts on us. And down deep in your soul, what your fear is from is truth. The truth that you haven't trained hard enough. You haven't immersed yourself, that you haven't dedicated yourself to your craft, that you haven't taken the lessons that you have learned right now, and you haven't memorialized them. You haven't found your talent. Sits on my desk every day, right next to my mouse. And when I'm talking to you, it sits in my fingers like this. What does NDCQ stand for? Anybody know? Not dead, can't quit.
Can't quit.
Can't quit.
Yeah. This is my challenge coin. And I wear a dog tag. And you've seen this as well. NDCQ right there. I wear this so that it's constantly near my soul. The mission that we have is no joke. We're not here to write stories about making better cupcakes. There are so many people of the 7 billion that exist on this planet, and they don't care because they don't know they're supposed to care, because no one taught them, because no one cared to share, to inspire, to motivate, to say, you know what, when you get scared and you feel you can't go any further, that's an incredible time. Don't run from it. Embrace it. Hang on to it. Go into it. And you know what? You might get your tail kicked. You might get knocked off that bronc. You might get beat up. And you might fall down. And guess what? It's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt bad. But if you fear pain, then you've already lost. You will never be able to reach that ultimate individual that you desire to be. You're never going to be able to go past your current belief systems. You're never going to be able to feel the weight and the pressure when an entire audience is sitting there looking at you. And you're going, wow, Steve told me this was going to happen. And here I am. And I have a choice. I can bolt and go behind the curtains, or I can stay up here and be me and be authentic and talk from where? My soul. I can share where I've made mistakes. I can be honest. I can be real. I can be unairbrushed. And at the end of the day, only when we act from that and we share what we have continued to level up and what we are doing today to move to that next level, what we are doing to make that difference in one other person's life, to show and focus and care. And why? Because your expertise has been earned. Your rank that is on your sleeve matters. That is your ability to change this world from its continuing movement toward chaos and to just hold it back a little bit. If you hold it back a little bit, I hold it back a little bit, and guess what? We start moving the needle in the better direction. Hoorah.
Hoorah.
Hoorah,
Hoorah.
hoorah, hoorah.
Want to share with you a motivation hack, what's similar to your coin. And I printed it out, I think 2 weeks ago. I don't know exactly where I got it from. It's called My Life Calendar. Did I talk about it weeks ago? I'm not
No.
sure. I talked with my wife, but I show you this. Can you see it? It's like an Excel sheet.
Okay.
And each row is 52 dots, means 52 weeks. And I assumed my life to end after 96. I'm an optimist. And the thing is, this is the time that's gone, where everything was smooth. Then there's a white one where I really sucked. And the blue one is that it's, in my perception, available. So, and it's clear in my age, there's much behind me, much more behind me than before me. And that's another kind of motivation hack, because if I don't feel like it, it says, oh, I don't have enough time to be lazy, you know. And
That's a good one.
I saw it somewhere, and I immediately had to go to my PC and do something. And I removed any other pictures, or most of them, because I just need this one. And it says
Wow.
time is running up, and that's, for me, it's brutal, because it's no fake. You can't, or it's a fact, you know. And this is a positive thinking. 96. I'm a 96 years old. That's because of my grandpa. He was 93, and I think 30 or whatever decades later, I should live a little bit longer. Yeah, so that's another hack, and it's similar to your coin. And I just wanted to share this with you. Whatever helps you to get you back on track. Yeah.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Peter. That's in fact, if you have if there was a download or a link like that, ship it over to me when I post up the video here in the authors only here in a couple hours. I'll add that link to it so that other people can see.
Sure.
I think it's fantastic, because it's incredible perspective. I mean, you know, mine is the gravestone, yours is the time is running out. You know, each of us have to have that that view of what life is going to look like if we continue to suit up every day. Suited and booted, what we call it. But if what I'm calling about is if you engage, your engagement means that you don't sit down, you don't quit. You know, not dead, can't quit.
Can't quit.
You're going to stop me from getting to the agenda, which is to find extraordinary individuals to help them move to their better version. Is you got to stop me, and that means you got to kill me.
Wow.
If I'm not dead, I'm not quitting.
But you know that I don't kill you.
Yeah. Find that mission and purpose in your life that reaches you at the depth of your soul, that when you reach down and touch it, it feels like you can't talk. It feels like you're about ready to, that your emotions are about ready to, I don't know how to use the word.
Overwhelm you.
Overwhelm. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's shaking me, like,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
It's not fear. It's still some reaction, body reaction.
That's what you're looking for, is that reaction that your mission and your objective is so much bigger than yourself. It is so, I don't want to use the word important. It's so life affirming. It's aimed at it making such a difference, not just You know, did I help grandma go across the crosswalk? Okay. Good thing to do. Very Boy Scout thing to do. Okay. And you should always do that, right? I want to do
It's
Impactful, I
it's
think
it's like
that's what-
making a dent in the world.
in a good way,
Yes.
an affirmative way. That's where my mission statement is, to deliberately cause affirmative outcomes that would not have occurred otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me, I didn't have that mission statement until I didn't have it defined like that until probably about 5 or 6 years ago. I had other mission statements, but they started and they continued to evolve. And I continued to build what I wanted to do, how I wanted to make a difference. You know, when I was going to, and I determined that I would not let external events cause me to cower and give up and quit. That I changed my perspective, and I saw the challenge and I saw the pain as a resistance that allowed me the opportunity to prove to the Creator that I may not be the best and most talented guy on the team, but I'm here to give you everything that I have, and I'm here to give it to you for the right reasons. To make an affirmative outcome that would not have occurred otherwise. I will be the difference. And even if that means sacrificing my life so that others do better, bingo.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that's the intent.
Is it Matt that says that if your purpose does, or your mission does not make you cry, then it's not big enough?
Bingo. Perfect. So work towards that. I'm not saying you're going to sit down here and after this call and script that perfect life mission, that perfect mission statement, but put it on your agenda. Work in that immersive concept. Take the expertise that you have learned already and become the expert of the experts. Be ready that when they call you forward and say, jump on the platform, here's the microphone. Oh, our guest speaker today on the Zoom call, no show. You got 30 seconds. Be ready for that, because you already are that individual inside, or you wouldn't have been chosen to be a partner with Matt. You already have that signature. All I'm saying is keep pushing it, keep growing it, keep building it, keep putting yourself in that place that scares the bejesus out of you. That's where you're going to find your greatness. Hurrah?
Hoorah.
Oh,
Powerful, very powerful. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, we're going to let you guys go out there and go make that difference in the world today. And I appreciate each of you and your time and your attention and your devotion to be part of this family. And I'm blessed.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Steve. Have a great
Thank
day,
you.
everyone.
Hey, y'all.
Steve.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
Steve. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.